There is a long history about the various roles of women in the Philippines. There is women discrimination from a long time ago. Women discrimination is defined as an act that result in or have the effect of women being denied the exercise of a right because of a lack of recognition of pre-existing gender-based disadvantage and inequality that women face. The objective of this study is to present a concept of women discrimination in the Philippines in modern contemporary world and what instances in history that is still evident that might have an effect to this issue as well. To meet this objective, we will discuss the status of women during the pre-colonial period, during the colonization of Spanish and Americans in the Philippines, the status of women during the Marcos regime, and finally, the discrimination experienced by women in the present society.
Women during pre-colonial period. During the pre-colonial time, in the Philippine society, they value the equality of gender. Mostly, female children was treated as male children treated like, mainly because they recognize that women are as essential as men also. Women serve as a leader and deliver command to her own circle of relatives because women perform an essential component in the economic lifestyle of the community because they work long hours and attempt to join their menfolk in hunting animals, fishing, and gathering foods. The early Filipinos gave equal significance to both sides, like the status of men and women. The pre-colonial Filipino spouse became treated as a companion. They have given a chance to lead and has a power to give command to her own circle of relatives. She is no longer to be treated as a slave because they are treasure. She enjoyed freedom in making decisions within the family. Her thoughts was not only to have an affair and having a child or not. Women have different rules during the pre-colonial times. They predict what will happen just like what 𝗪𝗠𝗧𝗢𝗪𝗏 does. 𝗪𝗪𝗠 refers to the pre-colonial Filipino tradition of female mystical healers whose spiritual connectedness was a source of dark magic. 𝗪𝗪𝗠 women serves between spiritual and material worlds in their communities. 𝗪𝗪𝗠 rules multifold warriors, healers, priestess, and sage. They are Philippine shamans that have in diverse ethnic groups. It specializes in communicating the spirits of the lifeless and the spirit natures.
Women during the Spanish and American colonization.
During Spanish colonization, good education and the opportunity to go to prestigious schools were more prioritized to be available for men. Although some women were able to attend some vocational schools, most were not given an opportunity to an education because the church and the government believed that women should only stay at home. Thus, the role of the woman became attached to the home. Her duty was to become an obedient and respectful daughter, a good wife, and a mother.
During the American colonization, women were a reserve force of cheap labor. A great number were part of the service industry. Women were working as unskilled workers, and they also became part of the informal sector, such as naglalabada and naglalako. Women were educated only on courses biased on the kind of jobs the colonizer wanted. Women during the Marcos regime. At 7:17 p.m. on September 23, 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos announced that he had placed the entirety of the Philippines under martial law. This marked the beginning of a 14-year period of one-man rule.
I have proclaimed martial law in accordance with the powers vested in the President by the Constitution of the Philippines.
During the Marcos years, women experienced domestic and state violence, wherein worse abuse was committed to women than men, in that they suffered more sexual abuse in addition to torture. One of the victims of women discrimination was 𝗪𝗓𝗓 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗓. She was an activist when she was arrested during the martial law period.
What they did while they were asking questions was they would, the pompiang, they would hit hard at the ears. Ganyan. Yes, hit hard. And that's painful, no? So I would shout. Then they started fondling my breasts, and then they had this sharp object which they were putting inside my vagina. And so I was screaming and screaming and screaming, and it was like no one could hear.
Marcos' regime spelled out policies that would be nightmarish to every decent women's movement. During the Marcos regime, Filipino women were used as the main attraction and commodity in the tourist industry. To prove that, the very recent statement of U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, 𝗪𝗓𝗪𝗧𝗢𝗪 Jr., about the fact that 40% of American tourists come to the country for purposes of sex is an indication that such policies have really taken hold. Although the good ambassador retracted and apologized later, the fact remains that he struck a very sensitive nerve wired to a painful social cancer. Marcos' dictatorship closed down all avenues for democratic participation not until the 1986 People Power Revolution, which catapulted Corazon Aquino to the presidency, which restored the lost democratic space, and with the restored political freedom, women's movements came back with a vengeance.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me your oath of office. I, Corazon 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪 do solemnly swear that I will faithfully and conscientiously fulfill my duties as President of the Philippines, preserve and defend its fundamental law, execute its just law, do justice to every man, and consecrate myself to the service of the nation. So help me God.
Women during the present society.
Iba talaga ngayong taon yung the greater need na magkaisa, to unite against yung mga issue at nagpapahirap sa kababaihang Pilipino.
New study finds discrimination against women and racial minorities in hiring in the sciences. A major 2012 study revealed significant gender bias in hiring in the natural sciences. Male and female scientists alike discriminated against hypothetical undergraduate female candidates for a lab manager position.
Here are the examples of women who experience discrimination from men in a way that they are abused physically and emotionally. The first one is Janela Salvador. On October 24, 2018, in an interview for the Philippine Star with Ricky Lo, Janela Salvador claimed that Elmo Magalona physically hurt her while under the influence of alcohol. The last one is Barbie Imperial. In a series of now-deleted social media posts, actress Barbie Imperial shared alarming photos of her body with bruises. The role women play in today's society is a drastic change from the previous role. Women used to be confined to the superiority of the men. However, in today's society, women's roles are more valued than ever before. Women perform an equally important role as men do. This does not mean women have to compete with men in gaining rule over the different sectors of the society. As time goes on, we can live in a society where empowered women hold up their share of the sky.